Well, I am so pleased to see that so many of our new students' family members have joined us this evening. We are grateful that you've made time for this and hope that this will feel like a productive time for you to learn more about how the Tulane Family Programs Office can serve you and help you support your student during their journey at Tulane. So I'll tell you just a little bit about how we run the family webinars. So first of all, the microphone and chat for participants is disabled in this webinar format. And I do ask that you wait to submit any questions in the Q&A feature until after I finish the formal part of the presentation. I'm the only presenter this evening, but for most of our other webinar topics, we'll have one or two or even sometimes up to about 6 people on the panel, and they have worked really hard to refine their material and anticipate all your questions. So we hope that you'll kind of sit back and just absorb information at the beginning, and then I'll cue you when it's time to submit questions. The other thing about this particular webinar topic is that it's a welcome and an introduction. And so we won't be going into deep detail about some of the different processes that will happen over the summer or some of the different resources. There will be individual webinars on those different elements of what your student's going to experience. So I'll answer some questions tonight, and I'll try to look for the ones that would have the most sort of general applicability. And I will invite you to email me if you have further questions. So I think with that background, I'll just say that the other thing that we always do with our webinars is we archive them on the Family Programs website, so you can find them later. So if something comes up, as it inevitably does, and you can't join us during the live webinar, you'll be able to find a PDF of the slides in case you did join the webinar, but there's just one detail you need to go back and refresh yourself on. Or if you didn't see it at all and you just want to walk yourself through the slides, you can do that, or you can see the recording, the video of the webinar. So we usually have those up within a couple of business days. So I invite you to just listen this time. If you've got questions, you might just want to make a note for yourself, but we'll hopefully get to that answer for you. So we'll start in just a second. I think a couple more people are logging in to join us. So again, my name is Penny Wyatt. I'm the Director of Family Programs and External Relations in the Division of Student Affairs here at Tulane. And so I serve as the resource person and navigator for family members. And we define that really broadly. And so whether you're parents, step-parents, other family members, supporters of any of our students, then we have a place for you at Tulane. And so someone that you can go to, a place where you can look for information and resources. So we want to welcome all of you who have new students who are joining us and who will be starting in August. So what does the Family Programs Office entail? So there are a lot of resources and services that we provide. So we have answers for you through the website and by email and phone. We have regular communications that go out to you in the form of newsletters that are emailed to you. We have a lot of information, and that is on particular topics, a certain process, or an opportunity that we want you to know about so you can encourage your student to take advantage of it. And those are usually, that type of information is usually delivered through these webinars or pre-recorded tutorials that you can find online. And then we offer some connection so that you can connect with other parents. You can connect with us at the university through different events that are here on campus. And there's a variety of those. And so I'll explain a little bit more of those as we get to that point. And then our overall goal is to provide reassurance to you that your student's going to have a positive experience, that they may have some challenges that they will grow through as you have seen them do up until this point. But we are partners with you. We really do consider parents and other family members and supporters to be partners in assuring your student's success. We know that there can be difficulties or challenges, but those can also be really worthwhile learning experience experiences. And that's what we want, is the ultimate goal, that they're learning and growing through this experience here at Tulane. So to give you a little bit more information about the answers component, so there is our website, and I'm sorry, that has a wrong website. It's families.tulane.edu. It has access to answers about procedures and resources and events. So there's the URL. It's families.tulane.edu. And if you remember that /info, INFO, it'll take you to the section of the website that is a shortcut to a lot of quick links that can be very helpful for you. So if you don't remember anything else, remember families.tulane.edu/info, and that's a good place to get started. The communication that you'll get through the newsletters is very important because it is parsed out over the year to give you some just-in-time information. So they're emailed twice a month in this particular time. So this summer, in the mid-May to early August time period, when we have new students who are getting onboarded and familiar with Tulane, you are also, as their family member or supporter, having that same experience where you're trying to get to know things. And so we send those more frequently to you during this particular summer. Then after we get to September, you'll get them near or on the first of the month, September through May. Every once in a while, you may get a special bulletin if it's a special topic or an emergency situation or just something that's come up that's critical at a particular time. You might see something in between those times, but they'll be labeled accordingly. Now, so we've sent out 2 newsletters so far to this cohort of parents and families and supporters of these students. So if you haven't seen them yet, I'm not sure how you would know to be on our webinar tonight, but if you don't see them, or perhaps your partner or someone else who's affiliated with your student hasn't seen them, the first thing to do is check your spam filter or your junk mail folder to see if for some reason they were diverted there. They are sent through a bulk, e-newsletter service. And so you might have the controls set so that it filtered them out. If you don't find them in a spam or a junk folder, then email families@tulane.edu. That'll come to me, and follow up with your student. After you send that information to me, send your name and email address and your student's name and their Tulane ID or their Tulane email address. That way we know that they're here affiliated with this class. Follow up with your student, because it may be that they just made a keystroke error when they typed in your email address. And so you want to make sure that all of your correct information is in their officials Tulane student record, so that if other departments on campus are sending out anything to parents, then that'll be corrected as well. Because just sending that information to me or to families@tulane.edu doesn't correct it overall. So sometimes a student just forgot to put their family member's email address in, or they just left out a letter or put the dot in the wrong place, and that can happen. So we want you to make sure that you email me, but you also check with your student about that. So as I mentioned, another thing that we want to provide is information for you. And so they can offer more detailed information than we can do in a short article in the newsletter. And so we time those so that it's right before you need it. So when it's something that's going to be a process like finding out about fraternity and sorority recruitment, we'll have a webinar on what families need to know about that. If it's right before registration, then for courses, we'll have a webinar about that. Then sometimes we'll be introducing you to a resource. And so there are more topics that'll happen in a shorter amount of time this summer that will be helpful for you. And a couple of those were mentioned in the last e-newsletter. There'll be some more topics that will be presented in the upcoming newsletter so that you can register for those. And then as the year goes on, we want to highlight different opportunities that would be good for you to know about so you can support your student, or so you'll know more about it when they connect with you and say, hey, I heard about this really great thing and I want to apply for this. So we want to make sure that you kind of know what that will entail too, or that maybe in the midst of everything they're doing, they haven't zoned in on that thing yet, but it's something that you think will be important in their college journey here at Tulane. And so you want to make sure that you can have a good conversation about that with them. So we also sponsor some different events. So one of the first times we might see you from my office and some of the campus partners, we know you've already had a relationship with the undergraduate admissions staff, but we'll hope to see you at move-in. And the students received their assigned move-in day this week. So each of those first year student move-in days, August 10th, 11th, and 12th, we will have for you some support, information, and guidance. The first part of the day, you'll be arriving, parking, or being dropped off, moving in as your student has been assigned. From 1 to 4 p.m., there will be a drop-in style orientation at the Goldman Center for Student Accessibility. And then at that same time period, from 1 to 4, we'll have a family resource station set up, and that's what this photo is of. And that is an information fair style thing where you can visit with a lot of different people in one place. So what we've done is moved different key departments will participate in that, so you don't have to walk all over campus, especially in the August heat. You'll be able to visit with them in the air-conditioned space of our Lab and Burnix Center. Then 5 o'clock is a really important time. There's something for families to go to, for parents and others to attend a family welcome event. And at that same time, the students will have a meeting with their wave leader. The wave leader is their person who's going to guide them through that hullabaloo hello experience, the orientation activities in that first week or so. Then at 6 p.m., there's the Center for Intercultural Life orientation. There'll be more information about that in the newsletters later this summer. And then from 7 to 9, the students have an important meeting that very evening with their resident advisor on their floors. So while you're making your plans and trying to anticipate how you'll manage that visit for move-in, please plan to leave campus after dinner and know that by 10 a.m. the following day, whether they move in on the 10th or the 12th, students will have mandatory meetings for the rest of the week. So you might be able to catch up with them at breakfast, but you might need to kind of plan that, after dinner time on their move-in day, you won't see them again unless you have a really short kind of quick breakfast catch up with them the next day. So, as we mentioned in the newsletter, if you really want part of your experience in that visit this summer to be exploring New Orleans together or doing something together as a family, we encourage you to do that. Make your plans so that you can do that before their move-in day. So arrange your travel and your plans that way. Sometimes parents will ask if on that very first night the students will stay in their residence hall, and we say yes, they will have moved in, everything will be there. And so we really encourage them, even if you're going to try to catch up with them for breakfast the next day, that you encourage them to stay because they'll already start to meet other people. They'll have that floor meeting until 9. It's really good that they're already on campus so that they don't miss anything that next day. So another event that we invite families to is our big Wave Weekend. So the thing to know about Tulane's particular family weekend is that it's aligned with homecoming, the homecoming football game, and our reunions for alumni. So it's a very spirited event for the whole Tulane community. So we refer to it as Wave Weekend. So Wave 25 will be this year in November, November 13th through 16th. Now, I will say that although the weekend is billed as starting on the 13th, most of the things that are happening on the 13th are for students. There may be some things in the late evening. So we know that a lot of people may be traveling in on Thursday evening, so you can take advantage of as many things as possible on the Friday the 14th. So that is the day that we have most of the things that are geared towards a parent and family audience. The students still have class that day, so we will plan some receptions and presentations and opportunities, open houses, those kinds of things that parents and other family members would find appealing and be a good thing for you to do while your student's still in class. And then by the late afternoon, you can kind of do things together because they'll be free from class, and the more of the activities based around the football game will kind of start. Now, one thing about our game is that we won't know the kickoff time until maybe 10 to 14 days before the game day. So be mindful of that. Just keep that in mind to kind of watch your email for that. Now, the football game tickets are sold separately from the general registration for the Wave Weekend. An email will be sent in June, sometime very soon, when the homecoming game ticket sales open. So keep an eye out for that. And we have sold out in the last couple of years. So if going to the game is a big important thing for you and your family, then that's something to pay attention to coming up. Now, do keep in mind that the students will already be able to get their ticket to the game. Their seat in the student section is a part of their fees that you're already paying for. So unless you really want your student to sit with you in the family section, then you'll be sitting in separate parts. You can meet up at, the time between, in between things during the game or at halftime. But if you want them to sit with you, you will have to purchase a seat for them with you in the family section. Most people sit in their separate sections and just visit in between. So another thing that we want you to know about events is that we've got some resources to help you with your travel. So we have a Tulane travel portal that enables you to book via that site to get some discount rates at national chain hotels, local boutique hotels that are unique to New Orleans, as well as some bed and breakfast inns that are near campus. So you may have used this when you were arranging your travel if your student came to visit Tulane. If not, then this is something that you want to find out about, and it's available to you, the whole time that your student is here. We also have some partnerships with a couple of rental car companies in case you want to rent a car while you're visiting, and all those links are on our family programs website. So I just want to mention that we are very mindful that your experience as a parent of a college student might be very different from when you yourself went to college. And your family members might not have been as engaged in your experience at university, but things have changed in our world. And we do see that you are a vital support for your students' growth during this time. And we fully recognize that your students' transition to Tulane is a new experience for you too. It changes the dynamics in your family. Most of our students are from farther away than they might be if they were going to a state university or a local college or university in your same state. So we recognize that, and we know that that can intensify the anxiety that you might have or that they might have about moving far away, and starting embarking on this new experience. So we offer just like we offer support for students, I'm here to help offer support for your changing role as your student learns and grows through this experience and learns to take on more responsibility. So while we are communicating with you more frequently this summer as everything is brand new, that will change. The pace of that will change, and the nature of it will change as well as your student learns to take on more responsibility. So our goal is to help you support them so that they, as they're this emerging adult, takes on more and more responsibility. So what you have to do in this summer, we hope will not be the same amount of attention that you'll have to pay as they are in those other summers between their other years, between sophomore, junior year, and junior and senior year. So know that that's our goal. So the transition assistance that we provide for new students is very robust. So there are resources and programs that encompass all of these different things and more. So the Hullabaloo Hello is their new student orientation activities. That's a whole series of activities that happen for them. They get advising from Newcomb Tulane College. We also have offices for success coaching. There's an academic learning and tutoring center that's different from the success coaching. Newcomb Tulane College provides these online modules, has robust websites, tutorials, and really helpful checklists to keep them moving forward. Our Goldman Center for Student Accessibility handles accommodations for students, and we have a webinar on that whole area of the university next week. We have an office for case management and victim support services that uses a social work kind of model for case management, recognizing that if a student is having a challenge or a difficulty in one area of their life, it probably is not just confined to that one area, but it spills over into other areas. Or in order to be successful in managing that, they need some assistant to help them think about all the different aspects of that. So we have really wonderful set of case managers who help students with all kinds of issues that they might encounter. Our campus health department is really robust with a health center, also a Center for Counseling and Psychiatric Services that we call CAPS. And then we have the WELL for health promotion, and that is for for students to learn about other health issues that might build on what they've learned heretofore, but also gives them some good information for just being proactive about how they manage their health and all of those things. So, in addition to that, I think one of the most important things that we offer in terms of transition assistance are a whole constellation of helpful people to help your students in this transition and help them grow and move through all of these things that will be new to them when they get here. So they'll have a group of wave leaders who are volunteer peer leaders who assist them during that Hullabaloo Hello, which is the brand name for our new student orientation. They'll have resident advisors who are the live-in peer helpers in the residence halls. They'll have college advisors from Newcomb Tulane College who are full-time professional staff to help them in planning their academic path at Tulane and registering for courses. In their first semester, they'll have instructors for their TIDES class. That's the Tulane Interdisciplinary Experiences seminars. And those are instructors who choose to teach that special first year 1 credit hour course. There are also honors colloquia that students can take. And there's a student who's a peer mentor who's assigned to each of those classes. So they also have yet another student helper in that first semester who is there to guide them and provide some additional connection to resources. And then the Goldman Center also has peer mentors who are available to help students who are receiving accommodations. So once the semester gets underway, I want to go ahead and tell you to anticipate some things now. I know there's a lot for you to do this summer, but I want to go ahead and mention this now so that you'll be prepared for this. Because once they get here, they could be so busy or so engaged and so excited about everything they're doing that you might not hear from them, or you might hear from them a lot. So it all depends on kind of what your pattern is like. But anticipate that it might change and you might have to find a new normal. And if you're not hearing from your student as much as you usually would, then you might need to kind of be upfront about that and say, why don't we set a certain time of the week when we could have a catch up if that is important to you and if you think that's going to benefit your student. So you might have to be that organized about how you're going to communicate with them. So just anticipate it might change and you'll find a new way to manage that. But what we really want you to do is to encourage your student to take the initiative to meet people, to ask questions, and to get involved. And it's always a good thing to remind them that everybody can feel new or awkward or lonely or unsure of themselves, but they don't want to show it. Sometimes there can be a lot of posturing that goes on at the beginning that people don't want to show that they're feeling homesick or a little lost. So they may not mention that or talk about it with other people who are also new. So if that seems to be the case, if that's what you're hearing from your student or they're feeling a little overwhelmed, steer them back to one of those peer mentors that I mentioned in the last slide, because those students are trained to help students and they know that everybody goes through that experience. They just may experience it a little bit differently from one person to the next or one week to the next, but they're there to give them that kind of support and guidance. So it's always good to steer them back. We do ask that you resist the urge to solve your students' problems. They're going to grow more if they learn to take advantage of those different resource people, resource offices, information that's on a website to solve their problem and kind of tackle that head on, even if they do it with some support, but try not to step in and solve the problem for them. They'll learn and grow a lot more, and you'll be so surprised at the confidence that they acquire as they learn to make use of all those good resources they have. So instead, listen, encourage, remind them of those resources and refer them back to them. And you don't need to say, oh, I heard this on the parent webinar. You can just say, oh, I think I remember hearing about this. Or you might say, hey, I did just, pay attention to this webinar that was online. And, have you heard about XYZ? And that can be a way that the student just feels supported to go ahead and use what's here. Expect the honeymoon to end. They might be really excited about everything at the very beginning, but some frustrations may set in. And that can happen at different times for different people based on how comfortable they are admitting that they need some extra help, or how extroverted they are and how quickly they meet people. So listen carefully and diagnose maybe the referred pain. They may be complaining about the dining hall, but what really is going on is that they're in a class that feels like it's pitched above what they're capable of, but they're just trying to get used to things. So redirect your student back to the Tulane resources to find that support and find those solutions. The other dynamic that I want to just alert you to is to not be surprised if during spring semester some of that frustration or confusion or just some challenges present themselves again, because there's just some different dynamics to the spring semester that they need to get used to. So expect that that might happen. And again, just encourage them to ask questions, use resources, and take advantage of all the people who are here who want to help them. Encourage them to have patience and persistence. Not everybody kind of has it down pat after just one semester. It can take a year to kind of go through the whole cycle of an academic year and all the ups and downs and different things that happen, the different processes that are there. And so anticipate that sometimes over the winter break they might be voicing some concerns or having some, mixed feelings about things. So just say, I've heard it takes a full year to kind of get used to everything, and then you feel a lot more acclimated to everyone. So that's a good thing for you to remember to tell them. So I would say though, if you feel like your student is experiencing more than just typical adjustment challenges, then we want you to contact us. And you don't need to worry too much about taking this down because I'll send this to you in a follow-up email. But the thing that we will encourage you to do is that if it's not an emergency, go check the family's email, the family's website. Check if you don't see something there on that info section, then email families@tulane.edu. You don't even need to remember my name. You can just email families. Remember who you are. You're the families and supporters of our students. So families@tulane.edu is the place to go. Or you can submit a concerns report at this URL. Now, if it is an emergency, then we want you to contact the Tulane University Police Department. So TUPD's number is right there. So I'll give you just a little bit more context for this. So, and again, you'll receive this in a follow-up email. So if the type of issue is just concerning, then you might steer your student towards case management and victim support services. There's their office phone number, or you could use an online form to bring that to our attention. If it feels urgent, then there are the phone numbers during the business hours, and then we even have a professional on call, a student affairs professional on call outside of business hours. So that's something that feels urgent, but it's not an emergency. However, again, if it is an emergency, then call. Don't worry about a form or trying to wait until business hours. There will always be somebody there, a dispatcher there at the 504-865-5911 number. So I'm going to just leave that up there. That's the contact information. And I'll start to see if you've got any. Oh, I apologize. Let's get back to the beginning here. Um, let's see if you have any questions. So one of the questions is, if the student was assigned to move in on the first day, does that mean the student will have mandatory meetings on the next day while other students are moving in? And the answer to that is yes. So it is planned that by 10 the next morning, they will have activities on campus and off. There are different things going on. And so we don't want your student to miss any of those. So the first year experience team has planned a wonderful set of experiences. So even if your student is on the first day to move in, they will have activities that we don't want them to miss. And you wouldn't want your student to be the one who's missing, and they'll miss out on time that they have to help them get to know campus, help them get to know resources, and also to meet other students. So please don't take them away from that. So What time is dinner on the 10th? So this is sort of the same question. So the students have information that they're receiving from the first year experience office that shows them what they will be doing. So please tell them to make sure they're paying attention to their Tulane email. So if there's one thing I could ask you to remind them of frequently this summer, it's to check their Tulane email frequently. Really, at this time of the summer, they should check it several times a week. And then once they're here on campus, they really need to check their Tulane email once a day. I know that email is probably not their preferred mode of communication, but it is considered the university's official way to communicate with them, so they're responsible for reading their email. So one person asked me to elaborate on the spring semester and why it might be more challenging than fall semester. So it's not that it's more challenging, it's just that it has a different rhythm. And so it can present its own challenges. So people can get involved in different things. Mardi Gras happens in spring semester, and depending on when that happens, that can make students be a little bit distracted. They can think, oh, I won't really do that and pay attention to those things or study that much until after Mardi Gras. That's not a good idea. They need to keep up with everything, even though there's a lot of celebration and activity going on in the springtime. Here's another pro tip I will give you. If your student has friends from home who think that's going to be so exciting to come visit your student for Mardi Gras their first year, I would say recommend against that. I think that it's really important that a student gets to know what that experience is like, follows the guidance that we give about how to stay safe in big crowds and that kind of thing. And while they're not having to be responsible for someone who doesn't know their way around like they will by that time. So, and they're held responsible for the behavior of their guests. So it's a good idea just to tell them to wait on that. Um, they're allowed to have someone register as a guest, but our best advice would be that the first year is probably not the best idea. Have them experience it first with their new Tulane friends before they invite people to take part in that too. The other thing about that is that Mardi Gras changes during the year at the time of year, and so that can just mean that it gives this other element of something to do that falls at a different time than the fall semester might run. So it's just that the pattern can change. They also sign up for living on campus for the next year. They might decide to change roommates or seek out a suite situation, and so those things can just change the pattern. So it's just something else to kind of go through in the spring semester. So let's see. So one question was, can you generally explain how and when students register for classes for the fall semester? So we have a detailed webinar on that next week. So I'd encourage you to register for that. Go back and look in the newsletter for that link to register, or wait until we put it on the website if you aren't available next week to participate in that. But they will meet with an advisor, they'll get information, and they will be pre-registered into some classes that are the typical kind of first semester classes for new students, and then they can fill in around that. Now they can make changes to that, but they'll be able to do that starting next week, and that'll go on for a few more weeks. And our advising team opens up registration for the series of students so that they're not competing with everybody when they're registering for their classes. So the number of seats in the available classes are kind of parsed out over those weeks. And then later in the summer, they can go back to refine their schedule some more if they want to. So let's see. So somebody asked if their move-in is on the 12th, does that mean they attend orientation on the 10th and the 11th? No. And so even after the 12th, there will be more days of the orientation program. It'll just be arranged differently. So let's see. So this is a question from someone whose student's going to be a spring scholar, and there will be similar transition and support for students who are spring scholars. And in fact, they'll get a series of newsletters in the fall just to kind of keep them in touch with our staff member who works with spring scholars, and then they will have a similar orientation. It'll be shorter in January, but they'll still get a lot of that support. So it is important that they're still checking their Tulane email even when they're away in the fall, when they haven't arrived yet. So let's see. Um, Let me look at a couple more questions here. So if your student is moving in on the last day, can you go to the drop-in at the Goldman Center before? So if if you are arranging your travel so that you're here, a day or so beforehand, you're welcome to go to those drop-in activities, the Family Resource Station, um, or the Goldman Center orientation. You can go to those on that earlier day. I would just say that don't count on being able to park on campus. So it'd be wiser to take the streetcar to campus and walk through campus and go to those drop-in type things, or take Uber, Lyft, or a cab and come, because you won't get we just don't have enough parking that way. So let's see. So the move-in dates have been assigned already, so tell your student to check their Tulane email. And let's see here. So the students who have a later move-in day will still get a really robust program of orientation in those days following their move-in day. So the move-in days are Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, but Wednesday through the weekend, there will be lots of activities that all the students will do. They just may do them in sort of a rotating format and have different things on different days, but they'll all get some of the same information. So let's see. So I think that so someone said online it says students have 72 hours to refine their schedule after meeting with their advisor, and then after that 72 hours, that student will be sort of locked out of registration and being able to change courses. But then after all the students have had those days, then it'll reopen a few weeks into July so that they can look for drops and ads. And so they can keep checking. If there's a class that they were really interested in and there were no more seats available when they were registering, they can keep checking to see. And there are some courses that will have a wait list that will pull them up if they're next on the wait list, and they'll get an email that gives them, I think, 24 hours to confirm that they still want to take that class, and they can move their schedule around. So they still have other time left later in the summer. We just try to do it so that each cohort on each day has that chance to make their schedule. They have 72 hours to refine it a little bit, but there'll still be drop ad that's available for them even through the first 2 weeks of school. There just may be things that they're still looking at over the summertime to just make some adjustments. But again, they may have seen a class that looks really, really interesting and exciting to them, but it's really designed more for a student who's a junior who's had some prerequisites. So help them kind of see the big picture. They don't have to do all of the best classes they've ever seen in the list in their very first semester. And the advisors are going to be very cognizant. They know what kinds of things are considered their core curriculum, what things that are required, and what how to they know how to guide them to doing that. So let's see, let me look at a couple others. Some of the things that are more specific about things like language placement or particular specific questions about registration, I'm going to defer to my colleagues who are in the advising center. So please join that webinar next week, or watch for that to be posted on the Family Programs website by probably next Friday, if not earlier. So, so I'm going to ask you to wait until you've got the subject matter expert in that area. So, there is also on the Housing and Residence Life website, um, a whole tutorial, a pre-recorded tutorial on the shipping and moving in process. So if you haven't seen that yet, in the follow-up email, I'll give you the link to that so you can watch that for really detailed instructions about the way that we manage the move-in process. You'll have the opportunity to have things pre-delivered to the student's room through the program that they'll explain in that. So I think that at this point, I'm going to see if there's any final questions. And just remind you that we're here all year. Your student has that set of 5 or 6 really important people that will be there to help them. And I'm the person who you can reach out to connect you to the subject matter experts that might be the people that you will need as you are learning more about the university. You're becoming a part of our community. And we really do think that you're an important part of our community. And we know that you're an important supporter in your student's life to this point. So let's see. Um, so one question is whether or not students should be looking at the course catalog, and said yes, they should go ahead and start looking at things that are available, reading as much as they can, and getting prepared for that. They'll certainly be guided once they're there, but that'll help them a lot. So let's see here. And yes, this webinar will be posted on the website. So all of the webinars that we do for families um, are are recorded, and then they are on the website. And oftentimes, if we had questions that we didn't get to answer within the time period of the webinar, we'll add the answers to that at the end of the PDF. So the PDF might have some additional content. So even if you were here with us tonight, you might want to look at that because there might have been a question that I couldn't get to, or in the other ones where we have a panel, there might be some questions that we just ran out of time for, and we'll try to put that at the end of the written material that'll be on the website. So again, just remember families.tulane.edu. So I think that I'm going to end there. We'll look back more through these questions and look for ones that I can, ones that came up a lot, and see if I can answer those for you in the follow-up email that we'll send out probably on Friday. So watch your email for that. And I want to thank you so much for participating tonight, and welcome you to our Tulane community. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you.